Hey guys, how's it going? It's me, Josh Halter, owner and founder of the BioDude. I'm actually here at the BioDude Houston. You can come visit my store Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So before I get started on my build, I just want to dedicate this video. A couple days ago, a really close friend of mine unexpectedly passed away. And last time Jason was here, he loved the critters that I'm building for. So Jason, this video is for you, and I really hope I get to see you again in another lifetime.
And this is actually God. Alright, so I'll actually come in. I can't draw. And in which case I'll drop you your neck. And then you die.
Your face.
I'm not gonna make you die. Are you drawing?
The details, the wrinkles, everything.
Oh man, get that squat.
All right, guys, so I actually have in my hands here a pair of Starry night reed frogs. Now, these little reed frogs are from Madagascar, and there's actually two, I don't want to say there's two common types. So there's one that's pretty common defined, it's called the blue-black reed frog, and then you have your Starry night reed frog. And what I love about this species is their beautiful coloring. Males are typically a little bit brighter. Once in a while, you can find breeders selling the intergrade, which is the albogutulatus, the heteroaxylus, which is what these guys are, and then you sometimes see them cross with the Madagascariensis, which is just the blue-black reed frog. So if you decide to buy some captive bred babies of these, please make sure you ask your breeders that they are the actual full-blown Starry nights and not the intergrade. We actually have been breeding them here at the BioDude for a couple months. So we have a tadpole in here. I'm going to show you guys my tadpole setup. And once they start morphing out, we'll launch a second video with that and tell you how to take care of the babies, because the babies are a little bit different. And what I'm building for you guys today is a breeding setup. So this is intended for them to breed for me. I have an 18 by 18 by 18 Exoterra. This is one of their new Frog and Co enclosures. So there was a thin piece of glass here, but I removed this portion, and I actually have a much thicker piece of glass that's this thick that I'm putting right here. One thing I like about these enclosures is they open up like this, okay? And you know, overall they look really nice, but the best features here is you can see the bulkhead right here. So we installed the bulkhead out of the box. The tubing can come out the back, the tubing can come out the side, wherever you want it. Then all you do is hit the switch and it drains your drainage layer for you. Really good for, you know, dart frogs, things like that, some aquatic newts. But when it comes to like crested geckos and things like that, I wouldn't recommend this type of enclosure. Anyway, for a pair, an 18 cube's just fine. A 20 high you can also use, or an 18 by 18 by 24. I'm choosing to elect with an 18 cube because it fits my racks that I'm using for some of my breeding projects here at the BioDude Houston. I'm doing a complete aquatic base, and you notice this tiki man. So I'm actually have a little aquarium air pump here at the top that I have hooked up to a sponge filter. And this sponge filter has carbon at the bottom that we replace every 30 days. And as you can see, I'll turn the Tiki Man around. you can see the sponge filter right there doing its job. So I'm going to turn him around. So I don't really like to see the sponge filters, but I still want it to be accessible. So we drilled a hole at the back of the Tiki Man, and boom, here we go. So I have a 16-inch glow and grow at the top with my props. I'm going to get this going. So I'm really excited. Let's get building. So what I'm going to do first is I want to decipher land versus water. So I am going to be having this be about 60 to 75% water, with the, the difference being land. So I have some beautiful dragon rock here. So I might sell this on my website at some point. I really like, I like just selling this at my point of sale because it's much easier. It will put a little bit of sediment into your water, but that's okay. And it will give it a little bit of that nice unique color. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna put this, piece right like this. Yeah, and again, you can see some of the sediment coming out. So a little bit of turbidity in the water is okay. But after I set up, I'm gonna completely drain this water, and then we're going to just dump it back in and make it function in the way that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this rock out. Before it gets too cloudy in here, I'm going to unplug my air pump. Now it's no longer plugged in. I always check my tanks before I add water into them. That's why there was water in here, and also to make sure that my sponge filter idea was going to work. We're going to drain it. So while this is draining, I'm going to let it do its thing here. I'm going to start figuring out, my land. So what it's looking like here is primarily my land is going to be here and likely end right here. I want to leave this somewhat open because, again, I need the filter to be accessible. This is a breeding enclosure. It's still going to be beautiful, but I really need my reptile wranglers to be able to easily access and function. As you can see, it's draining. It takes a bit, so you just got to be patient because it holds a little bit of water. So what I'm going to start doing while that's draining is I'm going to start talking about my substrate mix. So first I'm going to be using river rock, which is what I have right here, to essentially create my drainage layer. Okay? So I sell the river rock on my website. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start putting some of that in here where I know this rock is going to be. So obviously you want to be delicate because they're rocks and it's glass. So you don't want to just throw it in here. You want to make sure that you put it in nice and slow, nice and easy. And you guys know I'm all about rocks in my enclosures. In November, Mariah and I, when she comes and visits from Reptophiles again, we're going to be doing a whole segment about different types of rocks and what types of setups different rocks play roles in and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we're pretty excited about that. So, water level's getting there. The turbidity ain't going to get any worse. So I'm going to put this, right there. Right like that. And then I got my little tiki dude. So I like where my water's going as I overfill my container. And as you can see here, this is a great option. This table isn't completely level, but look where it leaves your water layer. That makes maintaining your drainage layer so easy. And again, when you're keeping high humidity animals, such as poison dart frogs, this is a great, great option. So what I'm doing right now is, again, I'm adding my quote-unquote drainage layer because on top of this is where my BioDegradable substrate and Exoterra substratum is going to go. Now, Exoterra This new bio line that they released, I'm really excited about it. Let me tell you, super refreshing. It's been needed to have other commercial businesses start seeing the change that this community's needed for a long time. And I'm really happy to have BioDegradable even be a remote part of that. That's been our mission statement since inception. So I think it's great. BioDegradable's we've been doing a lot of good stuff here these last couple of months, and I'll have some good info for you. So as you can see, I'm adding in the river rock here onto the side. So now I have almost everything covered up here, from the front to the backs to the side, to making sure that I have enough of a level up to make sure that my substrate doesn't touch the dirt as much. Look at that. So we slant down in the back, so that's going to be really important for me to remember. Next thing that I'm going to do, I have a piece of screen, so my soil screen protector. You can get this at a lot of my distributors if you don't want to cut it yourself. Right here, take my window screen, and I'm going to figure out what I need to cut. So since this is a custom build, again, I want to make sure that I'm getting the right components here done correctly. So, and then I'm actually going to cut this off right here, going straight. Piece number 1, bingo. Piece number 2 is a lot thinner and smaller. The best part about this is Christina can fast forward all this boring stuff because nobody wants to see me cut screen. Not a huge amount of drainage layer. I literally used about a 12-inch by 12-inch piece, but it's going to play a role. Now, since this is a complete, almost not a complete biodegradable base, but pretty large, looks like I'm about water's going to be up to here. So even though this is land, it's mainly going to be a wet moss. So I'm actually going to put another type of drainage / substrate down, and this is their new substratum. I'm really excited to try this. I've been selling a ton of it online. So essentially, I'm going to be using this in conjunction with my flora. So this has nitrifying bacteria in it, which they say the species on the side, which is great because what that's going to do is going to help jumpstart your biological processes. Of course, I'm going to add Springtails and isopods, and I'm going to show you guys what I'm using. But this is I think this is the same Fluval stratum product. I'm fairly certain it's the same exact thing. But it's just tailored to a different demographic. But I'm not Exoterra, I don't know. Regardless, I'm sure it's a great product, and that's why we're going to try it. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the substratum here. I'm actually dumping it initially where my soil layer is going to be, okay? You notice I'm kind of going real nice and slow. So for me, I know this is going to be able to go into the water, okay? And I'm doing it so to make sure to try to prevent as much soil from getting in the water as possible, as well as water is draining through this, any types of beneficial bacteria might translate, depending on, again, the type in here, into the good bacteria that's going to help us maintain our water quality. Boom, I can deal. So, go Cowboys. So, next I'm going to get my flora. I'm going to get this cut open here, or ripped open. So, the easiest thing that I found when using my bag of substrate, cut off the top, take your water. All right, I'm back. I'm making this a lot harder than what it needs to be. So I'm going to take this, and then what I like to do is just go right like this. Turn the bag, so we try to keep as much out of the top as possible. And then I just kind of squeeze and distribute all the water inside the bag. Less mess, easier for you as a person to use. Can't complain too much. Okay, so I'm gonna take the flora. So guys, just keep in mind, you can also use things like ABG, whatever. My flora is not like ABG, it's nothing like it. It's a dirt-based rainforest mix. So it's gonna drain just as effectively as ABG, but it's gonna last a lot longer. Okay, so then we're gonna just start putting down the substrate. So the last thing I want is to get a bunch of substrate in here. So into my rock area. So I'm gonna go this direction here. Okay, so as this cascades down, I'm going to watch it. Perfect. Okay. So, obviously, you're never going to be perfect with keeping stuff out where you don't want it to be. But that's why I'm here, to help you guys. So, looking at the back glass, a really good resource for you when you build is utilize your angles. So if you want to make sure that you have a good enough in your back for your denser plants, you can do that. But behind the tiki man, I have a lot of ground to cover. So I'm gonna make sure that I go ahead and do that. But at the same time, I don't want to get the cord out of arm's reach. The cord is important. Okay. Now, another trick that I've learned that has been extremely useful is creating little dams for the substrate as we dig. I already know that I'm going to want moss in the front as like a dam. So I'm going to take some of my Showgrade moss here, and I'm going to put it right like this in the front. Dam number one. So this just, again, makes it easier for you. Number two, one of the tricks I've learned over the years, love me some Texas moss. It does so well in these terrariums. As we all know, Texas is slowly turning into Florida, at least in Houston. The earth is pissed. Okay, there we go. Okay. A little sandy and loamy, but that's okay. I can deal. So we took a Showgrade moss out, got the dam. Next, we have some of the AAA spag moss, which I am going to use. But let me tell you guys something. Getting spag moss has been very, very, very challenging. Where it's typically harvested in New Zealand, it has been hard to ascertain because of the flooding over there. So they haven't been able to harvest. So we've also been trying to get some from Chile. Thing is, it's all processed in China. That makes it really hard to get right now because of the current government and just tariffs and a container costing 20,000 US dollars. So we are, right now, we are not searching for an alternative, but we're searching to use something in conjunction with this that does a similar thing to stop relying on an unsustainable product. Because we all love this stuff, horticulturalists, growers, everything. It's not sustainable. So, we are already looking into it. I digress. So then I'm going to take some of my spag here. And I'm just gonna, look how nice and fluffy that is. It has some sticks in it, but it's pretty decent. So I'm gonna put this right like this. Okay. All right, so Starry Night Reed frogs, being from Madagascar, they like moderate temps. So when I say moderate temps, room temperature. If your room doesn't get above 80 degrees, you can keep Starry Night Reed frogs in there without any type of, additional heat. They will benefit from a very, very small percentage of UVB, like a 2%, if you decide to offer it. But we do not provide our breeding group any UVB. We're going to be doing water changes about every 3 days, just because I know there's going to be tadpoles in here, as well as other types of critters. So I want to make sure that I give them the best chance of success. So I'll get more into their husbandry as we grow, as we go. So I got a beautiful piece of Talawa of wood that I sell in my shop. So you can see some of the bigger pieces. Oops. Pretty good, pretty good. Have a couple ideas of what I want to do with it, but I want to make sure that whatever I do, it's... And that's it. Okay. I dig it. Okay. Then I have a lot of other types of branches and other things like that. So I do have some aquatic plants. So before I move forward, I'm going to get some of these aquatic plants where I want them to be. Now we are going to be adding a little bit of boosters into here that are animal safe to give the plants a little bit more nutrition, just so that way, you know, there's not shock or anything like that, because sometimes the river rock isn't that great, but all these plants are very hardy. So I expect them to thrive. And of course, I'll do an update video for you guys, so that way we can all see together if BioDude's plan worked or not. And then we got this beast right here. Now this one is a lot of it's gonna just grow out and up. Okay. So what I'm expecting this, so in our master plant tank over there, we have this, it grows out of the top of the water. Like this whole portion will be submerged and then the top inch will be above the water. So I'm experimenting to see how this does. And again, I'll keep you guys in the loop to see how we do. Next is that back corner. So I got this beautiful piece of cork bark tube I've been wanting to. So I know this is going to go here. Okay, I don't need to worry about that. But I want to worry about is that. Yes. Please work. Please work like I imagined it when I saw that piece. There it is. I dig it. Okay. Next we have another beautiful couple branches here. I got cork bark branches. So I also import these from Portugal. So I'm gonna... So these guys, because of their, you know, boldness, reed frogs, they live near bodies of water, and they like to spend their time inside broadleaf plants. Not really like like you'll might find some bromeliads and things like in that area with them in it. But from my understanding, when I would breed them, I would always keep them, you know, kind of like a tree frog that likes moderate humidity, not really high humidity, has really good airflow, but lots of places to climb, but lots of places to hide. So that's what I'm going for here. Got that piece right there. I got this piece right here. And this piece. Okay. Coming together. Next, we have some beautiful, beautiful plants. So I got a lot of different plants set aside and put together for this that I've been waiting for a while. So number one, this bad boy right here. So we actually have one of these growing in the Borneo eared frog enclosure in just water. So we have the entire root system this complex root system here, we're going to be giving it its own little section back here. The pothos is going to be a breeding section, so we're going to have the majority of the pothos going into the water. And then we have some bromeliads. And we also have an alocasia poly. So for starters, okay, I'm going to work on the alocasia. So whenever you're using plants that are going into the water, all these plants have been rinsed and stuff for me. Like I trust these. But again, you always want to make sure you rinse your plants. You make sure that any extra dirt or debris is off to the best of your ability. Again, I know where my plants come from. I know what they're doing, so I don't have any fears for that. Okay, there we go. One. Stick you in there like that. Perfect. So I got it. And this is going to be trailing down underneath like that, right into the water. Yes, they will. So we also have these bromeliads that was in their original enclosure. So that's just going to be put on hold for 1 second. I like that. Let's get that in as far as we can. There we go. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do with this plant is I'm going to take a ton of spag. I mean, a ton of it. There we go. All my roots are protected. Okay? Now, I don't care if the spag gets wet, because the roots are going to get wet. But this at least keeps it in an even keel. Okay. Now, in the very back corner, yes, we go. Don't know if I like that. I want the Elkhorn Fern in the back. So this is actually a Staghorn Fern. So Staghorn Ferns are an epiphyte fern. They get very big, so I'm going to be watching this plant extremely closely, because eventually I'll have to pull it, but the frogs are going to love it because of its broad leaves, ability to be up high. Okay. I wrapped it exactly how I did the other one, not messing with any of the leaves or the roots. And to make this easier, I'm going to put this down for a second. Flip this up. Okay. I'll let that hang. I'm going to open this up. And I'm going to use this to work from the top. Look at that. Yes. Okay. I can deal with that. That looks beautiful. Is again, so a little bit about Starry night frogs. They like to lay their eggs in the water, attached to things, like in a webbish type of material. So that's literally what I'm building for. Honestly, I think we're good. I think I'm gonna we can try this. Nope, that's not gonna work. Honestly, I think that's okay. Because last but not least, so I have a lot of extra plants, but guys, this is the best part about building, is you get into your little creative section and then boom. Okay, so that's what I got so far. I got the base. You know what, I like it. I think it looks pretty good. So to me, it's going to fill in really nicely for these guys and should give them a lot of opportunity to breed. I do have a jewel orchid and a pitcher plant, but unfortunately I don't think I'm going to fit them in here as much as I would like to. But I do know that I think I can fit. Do I want to fit this in there? I do. So I'm going to put, so this is going to give something for this to latch onto, because it's always going to be wet. Again, this is an experiment. We're going to see. We're going to see how it goes. With the frog, I can tell you the frogs are going to like it. Now, if we have to access the sponge filter, it's going to be literally as easy as tipping this forward and then pulling out the back. Won't be too bad. And plus, since it'll be on an easy rack with an easy to drain rack, all we have to do is turn the thing, little knob here, and it will just drain for us. So next, I'm going to go and I'm going to add in the water. Kind of see where we're at. So I'm going to run about 1.5 to 2 inches of water here in this enclosure. I'm paying very close eye to the, the soil lever to make sure that we're not going into, and then of course to make sure that my sponge filter is working, which I'm going to get it plugged back in. Okay. And I can look back here, and yes, we are rolling. Perfect. So, overall, it's a little bit different than what I normally do. So the last thing I want to do is add in some cleanup crew. So I'm going to add in some Springtails. These are some tropical pinks. Okay, this is a BioActive culture. This is, if you buy some Springtails from me, is what they're going to be packaged in. Okay. And then I also have some Dwarf white isopods that I know will just thrive in here. Okay. So then I'm going to take a little bit of the moss that they are congregated on. I'm going to put that there. And I got some of the substrate here. I am just going to go and dump like so. Okay. All right. Boom. Spread that out a little bit. So, what am I expecting for this enclosure? A lot of pruning as it grows, but that's okay. I want this enclosure to be dense. I want them to feel like they have a lot of nooks and crannies, but the most of all, there's enough of a water area for them to breed. That little humming is going to be gone when this is actually on a more, so do you see this is on a stable surface now and it stops making that noise? That is the volume that your air pump should be, but since it's not on a stable surface, that's why it's making that noise. What I'm expecting also is this to continually absorb water and stay wet. So if we have any tadpoles that we miss, they'll morph out of here, climb out, and then we can pull the babies as needed. As well as it'll always be wet, so I might be able to get mosses and other good things on there. I expect the adults to hang out in the bromeliads. They love hanging out on the axles or fitting their slender or their fat little bodies into slender little spaces. They do have a very enunciated call, which is really beautiful, but if you keep them in your bedroom, they can be, louder. As far as feeding is concerned, we feed these guys bean beetles, 1/4-inch crickets. The general rule of thumb is to never go between bigger than the spaces in between their eyes. So look how beautiful. Is there a glare, Christina? And then you also see the tadpole in here. So this tadpole, this is a younger tadpole. I mean, it's older. It doesn't have its back legs yet, but we'll take you into the back and we'll show you what that life cycle looks like. But we expect them to breed in this enclosure, and we do expect to get results. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this piece of pothos right here. So that just gives them another type of mass to lay on. We'll see how how the plants do. And overall, I'm really excited to see how this progresses. I really hope you guys enjoyed my build. I really appreciate it. I really think Jason would have loved it too. And I really appreciate everybody's support. If you want to know more about Starry Night Reed Frogs, feel free to email our customer care. I've been breeding them for many years, especially with my prior business, and they're not a hard frog to keep. You know, and you don't even have to set them up to breed. You can set them up in a normal Terra Flora type of setup like we have down here, and they will just thrive for you. But again, they are a beautiful little frog with a ton of personalities that I highly recommend anybody who's into amphibians look at and see. You can keep them as pets. Anyway, feel free to check out the rest of my channel. Feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think of the build, and I really appreciate you guys. The dude abides.